This is it right here.
Combining a team of reporters, columnists, and commentators.
Don't you ever talk about me!
Are you serious?
Jack Ebling has brought thought-provoking discussion.
What are you doing?
That's a damn coaching mistake!
Opinion.
The customer is the one who decides when the future gets here.
Oh, no!
The ship is on fire!
You have to check the report.
Are you kidding me?
That game was fixed.
And overall infotainment.
I'll take Jim Harbaugh.
What has he done?
Crazy cootie coming at you!
Quiet, please. In exactly 15 seconds, we'll be on the air.
Thanks, big fella.
Don't you ever come back here again!
No arguments. Those are called ass tunes.
So buckle up.
You talking to me?
It's time for The Drive with Jack Ebling.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Great afternoon, Mid-Michigan and beyond, and welcome to The Drive with Jack, the Spotlight Radio Network. Jack Ebling here with my producer today, Rob Bennett. It is a warm, wet Tuesday afternoon here, and looking forward to some Big Ten basketball tonight in Carver Hawkeye Arena. Slumping Michigan State, 4 losses in the last 5 games, going against cold and hot Iowa, a team with the same record overall, and want to welcome in Scott Docterman from The Athletic. Does a fantastic job covering University of Iowa sports. Scott, how are you?
I am great, Jack. I wish it was warm here. We've got about 27 degrees and nothing but a sheet of ice.
Ooh. So we have that to look forward to coming this way, probably, right?
Yeah, you bet. Sorry about it.
Well, which Iowa team is Michigan State going to see tonight? The one that couldn't get out of its own way against Michigan. I don't think that I imagine Keegan Murray missing 5 free throws and 2 dunks. Or the one that tore Ohio State apart at Value City Arena. Which Iowa is this?
Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, this is a team that's I would say it's a good team. It's not a great team. It's lost a lot of pieces from last year, and it's still, the fact that it's 18-8 and still has a winning record in the Big Ten, I think says a lot. But it still has some improvement to make because it's just you don't know what you're going to get. Now, they've been largely competitive, which I think is a good thing for Iowa. I was really wondering about that going into the season. But and they fought. They fought even against Michigan in the loss, and then, of course, they played better defense than most years against Ohio State, especially on the perimeter, and to be able to get 20 offensive rebounds was a number I don't think they get tonight. But I think you're going to see an energized fan base for sure. They're going to retire Luka Garza's number,
right.
And they're also retiring Roy Marble's jersey way too late, and as well as 2 others from the early days. So they should have a fairly rabid crowd, but that's never affected Michigan State in the past by taking Iowa's heart in a lot of these games.
No truth to the rumor that they're going to try to put Luka Garza back in a uniform and let him play one more game.
They could use him. They could use him at that position, but if he's just kind of on loan, on the All-Star break before he heads back your way. And this will be good because last year he did all that great work and nobody could see him do it. He was National Player of the Year, and it was in a COVID year where nobody was in the arena. So this is his chance to kind of take his bow in front of a full crowd, and I think that should be exciting for him and for the fan base that really needs it.
Scott, why honor both players on the same night? I guess I get why Luka would be honored tonight with the All-Star break, but they could honor Roy Marble anytime. Wouldn't you normally want to do that on 2 different nights?
Well, what they decided to do, this has been a tricky situation with Iowa regarding jersey numbers being retired versus the numbers themselves being retired. And a few years ago, before Roy passed away in 2015, there was a lot of discussion his number 23 should be retired, and they never did it. And he did get an honor before he passed from cancer, but they never retired his jersey. And then they said, well, we don't see us ever doing that again. Well, they didn't also see themselves having the National Player of the Year. So once this took place, they decided to reevaluate its criteria and they're also honoring two other first-team All-Americans, Murray Weir from the 40s and Chuck Darling from the 50s. Now, neither one of them are going to be present,
right.
In body form, maybe in spirit, I don't know, but but they decided let's do this all three, and they have a banner raising ceremony for every jersey that's been retired and every number that's been retired. So they're just kind of combining everything, and then of course at the forefront is Luka. So it's fascinating. It's something that's red meat for the fans. They haven't had a lot of that. The history here goes a little bit unappreciated. So I think this will be a really big moment for the fans, wrapped around a very important basketball game.
We had Jess Settles on the show yesterday, and I'm always stunned when I think of the fact that Iowa and Purdue have not been in the Final Four since 1980. That's 42 years. That seems way too long, but Iowa has done pretty well with players from the state of Michigan. When you think about B.J. Armstrong, of course, you mentioned Roy Marble from Flint Beecher, and then you think about Kenyon Murray, and now Keegan Murray. You got the twins there now, and I was curious if you saw this coming with Keegan. How can a guy go from 7 points a game to maybe winning a national scoring champion and being a top 10 pick?
I didn't see him at all having this kind of impact when he was at high school in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Both he and Chris were good players. I think Keegan was the only one with a real opportunity right out of high school to go to Western Illinois, and then his dad sent him to Florida to a prep academy. They got a lot better, and the fan base wasn't overjoyed when Iowa decided to offer both of them. At that point, they kind of felt like it was we're just placating, a legacy here. And then Keegan last year came in. He was a really big contributor. Obviously, having Joe Wieskamp and Luka Garza on the court, he wasn't going to get a lot of opportunities, but he looked the part. We knew that, okay, this guy's going to be really good. And so he's really come along. Now, I didn't know the same thing with Chris. He's about a year behind in development, but he's been outstanding as well, left-hander. And so both of those players are two of the three or four best players on the team. So I would imagine, Keegan is going to be a lottery pick, and Chris is probably a year away from entering that kind of discussion. I think next year he's going to be a breakout player.
This is it for Jordan Bohannon, right? We saw this with Brad Davison, and we thought maybe these guys would be exchanging threes in 2025.
Yeah, they're kind of on the Jess Settles plan, aren't they? 6 years, and and Jordan wasn't going to come back. Originally he was going to leave, and then C.J. Frederick decided to transfer to Kentucky, and was a kind of a controversial situation. And at that point, Fran McCaffrey had the conversation with him. Look, we if you're interested in coming back, we'd like to have you play the 2-guard for us, and try to develop Joe Toussaint as that point guard. And he thought about it, and he decided to return. And he wasn't originally going to do that. Well, only a couple of weeks ago, they were just kind of not getting into very good offense. And so they ultimately decided to move Jordan Bohannon back to the 1. And they've been much better, I think much more efficient offensively since that's happened, and have better pace and tempo. And I think, they're making strides right at the right time of year.
Iowa is known for scoring points, and we've seen that a bunch. I am still trying to wrap my arms around a game I watched. Rutgers 48, Iowa 46. And if you had said 94 points in that game, I would have said which team scored 94. What happened that night?
It was like it was more like a toilet lid than a rim, I think, for both teams. It was one of the worst displays of scoring I've seen in the Big Ten. And, both teams played well defensively, and they're both NCAA tournament teams, in my opinion. It was an off night that just got worse. And it was just like everybody started pressing. Bohannon was airballing threes, and it was just on and on. And then there was like a loose ball foul that was called. There really wasn't even a foul that determined the outcome of the game. It was like the official said, we've had enough of this. We're just going to call something that looks like a foul, and it really wasn't. And Rutgers hit 2 free throws with 2 seconds or with the second left, and Keegan Murray, I mean, there was nothing to it. I mean, out of that game that was like a football game, to call that was ridiculous. But yeah, that was something that I don't think should ever air on BTN, and it certainly won't be part of the greatest game package.
Iowa Classics, right? No, not exactly. Both teams tonight coming in at 18-8, and should Iowa win, teams will be tied in the Big Ten standings as well. So when you look at this game, how important is it for Iowa? Are they pretty well in for the NCAA tournament, or do they have a lot of work to do?
Well, the net suggests that they're in great shape,
yeah.
And they're at 19, I think it is last I saw, and they're ranked in the top 25. So barring a collapse, which they've done under Brand a few times, I mean, barring that, I think they're in. There shouldn't be too many questions. But that said, they had such a weak non-conference schedule, and that's going to be part of the discussion. And they haven't had necessarily that statement win at home. The Ohio State game was the first time they had a quad one win. It was the first ranked opponent they beat this year.
The only quad one win they have?
Yeah. So it's amazing to me that they statistically play out this well in the net. So I guess I feel like they need to win a game like this because they only have one more at home, and that's Northwestern. So you kind of want to have that statement win. They didn't beat Michigan when they had the opportunity, and they've had a few other losses. Purdue and Illinois beat them at home in tough competitive games. So they got to do that at least once this year. And really over the Fran era, Michigan State's been the thorn in Fran's side. I mean, there have been several games where I remember when Utah and those guys were playing, that when Michigan State got there, this was like, okay, the crowd was in a frenzy. It wanted to race the court and get on the court and cheer, and they just sucked the life out of them. And so I think this is an important game for Iowa because everybody's got that in the back of the head where Michigan State's kind of been the tormentor over the last decade.
This is going to sound like a very strange question for a team that's ranked in 19th in the net, but what is Iowa's second best win?
Man, that's a good question. I'm trying to think, and I don't really. I mean, Indiana at home. I mean, they just it's kind of cruised along, and I think they've played well and probably better than I expected. Frankly, I thought that losing that many players that they would be in trouble, but all they've done is take care of business. Even in the non-conference, they went to Virginia and won. They lost big at Iowa State. They beat Utah State, at our neutral site, but it's really just been ho-hum. Here we go. And most years you'd expect that to mean you're a bubble team, especially playing all the rum-dums they played in the other games, which were in the 300 net range. But here they are. They're 19th, and they're got a winning record in the Big Ten. They seem to be safe. I don't know. I guess maybe I can't figure out the net the way I did the RPI and the way the schedule lays out.
All right. We're talking with Scott Docterman from The Athletic covering the University of Iowa. And I want to talk to you about the big news in the Big Ten and college basketball and what happened Sunday at Kohl Center. Did you see it as it transpired real time, or did you catch it later?
I caught it later, about a half hour later, when I saw it and watched like the 2-minute clip kind of leading into it. And then I was not watching that game at that time.
It wasn't quite the Malice at the Palace, but it was still alarming. What was your initial impression when you saw it?
I've seen a lot of disgruntled players and coaches and handshake lines over the years. And Iowa, Illinois, a couple of years ago had that same situation in Iowa City. I mean, not to that degree, but there was a lot of jawing among the assistant coaches with the head coach, but to see an actual punch being thrown, slap, hand, whatever, I thought was beyond the bounds of good sportsmanship, certainly. But I thought that that's where it went too far, especially when you're talking about college players and athletes, because they are impressionable. It's a heated time. At the NBA, if that happens, you still have a maturity level that's not there for young men in college, and that's what we saw. The players get involved, and I did not think that set a very good example at all. And I think that what Michigan and the Big Ten did collectively with Juwan Howard was right on, and hopefully. Because I wasn't at the game last week. I was actually on vacation in California. But getting a technical and then another Class D technical for touching a live ball or something like that. I mean, it seems like he's been trending in this direction, and so you wonder, okay, now you've got to stop because you don't want to get this reputation. And if he does it again, I'm not so sure anybody would hire him at this level.
Yeah, I think he already has a little bit of a reputation when you think back to what happened with Mark Turgeon at the Big Ten tournament. But I think it's just great for Juwan and for the University of Michigan that they did not lose that game in Carver Hawkeye based on the 3 free throws that his 2 technical fouls gave Iowa. And if the Hawkeyes had come back and tied that and had a shot to do it and won that game in overtime, that would have been a really tough one for a coach to take.
Well, sure, it's all on him, and the fact that they're even still kind of on the bubble is remarkable. But had they lost that game and they were sitting here 7-8 in the Big Ten and 13-12 overall, I mean, then you're talking about they need to win out, and without him, there's no way. Now, not that they have much of room for a buffer, but they have a little more than they did, and they get that road win over a team that's 19 in the net that looks like a tournament team. I think it still kind of helps them in their opportunities.
Right. Michigan has 5 left, 4 of them, the next 4, in Chrysler Center, including a payback opportunity against Michigan State. And I think they get Iowa again, right?
Yeah, they do. Next week, Iowa does travel there. Because, Iowa's schedule is interesting because after tonight, they play, I believe, at Nebraska, Northwestern at home, and you would expect Iowa to win those games. They've got to. You've got to. At this point in the season, you can't allow yourself to get beaten by either team like that. Then they've got 2 rough ones to finish out, and that's at Michigan and at Illinois. So that's why I think tonight's game is really essential and important for Iowa. Because it's their, it's a home game. You hold serve at home, but it's also one where it can really establish you in that tournament discussion.
Scott, I've asked a couple of media members that if you didn't see it and you just heard that 2 Big Ten coaches got into a wild altercation after a game, who would you have predicted it to be? And
well, probably
the most common name I've gotten is Fran McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have said, well, don't forget Tom Izzo. He hasn't done that yet, but he certainly can go ballistic on the sidelines. And a lot of people correctly identified Juwan. I didn't have one person say, that Greg Gard, he's a troublemaker.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed Greg Gard. I mean, although I'm not so sure he would have been throwing punches with anybody. And but yeah, I think Fran is somebody that I'm sure everybody thinks would put himself in that position. Although I've never seen him really. I mean, he has argued with other coaches, no question. And I remember him and Chin Coleman when he was an assistant with Illinois 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And Chin went, was really jawing, and it became very, very heated. And they pulled themselves off the floor, kind of in the middle of the handshake line, and they needed to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think Fran and Juwan Howard might be the 2 that first come to mind, and they certainly will be from now on.
Are you pro handshake line? We have heard Dick Vitale. We didn't hear him, but we saw his message about it, thinking it's probably an idea whose time has passed. We saw Seth Greenberg. Fran today said that he didn't think it was a great idea, or yesterday. Tom Izzo came out yesterday and said that it's the greatest thing that ever happened, and if the other team doesn't want to shake hands, his guys are going to go down and do an air shake with everybody. What do you think? Do you think that the post-game handshake is good, bad, or neutral?
Part of me thinks I don't really care one way or the other, but then I mean, I appreciate the gesture, the sportsmanship part of it, but I also can understand that one team is dejected, another team is thrilled. And when you get into big, important games, those emotions tend to spread even more so and get more heated. And I almost think at this point, you don't do it in football, and even the football coaches don't want to do it. But they're kind of forced to. I think at this point, I know in women's basketball, I think the coaches just kind of wave at each other, and that's it.
Is that right? They don't do it in women's basketball?
Yeah, I know. And a lot of that was COVID.
Yeah, I know they don't do it in the NBA.
Right. I would just say that that's probably the best way to do it. And I'm not saying that, trying to say, we're taking sportsmanship away or anything, but just diffuse the potential for these. And nobody wants to do it anyway. And then if you want to go out, if you played against somebody in AAU, or if you coached together 20 years ago, fine. That's cool.
We saw that with Kofi Coburn and Tyson Walker, and they stayed out on the court for 5 minutes and reminisced about their days in Christ the King in New York and all that. And I think if you have a coach, and Izzo's famous for this, who wants to talk to seniors, there are other ways to do that. You can certainly still do it after a game. You can do it before the game. You can do it with a phone call. You can do it a lot of ways. Maybe it doesn't necessarily require a greeting line to do it, but Tom was adamant that this is one of the things that he'll fight to preserve. So, Scott, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Hope you have a great game to cover tonight.
All right. Thanks so much, Jack. Have a good day.
Scott Docterman from The Athletic. And, Rob, we're going to stay right here. And we're going to bring in a guy just back from China, part of the Associated Press coverage team for the Beijing Games, Michigan Associated Press sports editor Larry Lage. Larry, how many Olympics for you now?
Number 4. And before we get to that, you want to keep the flow going on the handshake line?
I know you have strong feelings about this, Larry.
Yeah, funny. Freudian slip. As I told Tom Izzo on a text today, because he didn't answer my call, understandably so, because he's got more important things to do. I don't think I've agreed with anything more that he's said in 30 years.
Yeah.
And
why do you love the handshake line?
I just think because college sports ideally teaches young men and women, Tom could have said adult instead of man up.
Yeah.
Be an adult, shake the other person's hand, look them in the eye, and say, good game. And as a father and a former athlete and follower of sports over the last 35 years, I can't feel any more strong than Tom Izzo feels about it.
Okay. Do you think that the NBA should do that, or do you think that college football should do that, or do you think that this is something that's unique to men's college basketball?
I think it should be across the board to some extent, unless there's, COVID reasons, as there have been in recent times. But, I guess I'm not strong enough to say that it should enter into every sport that doesn't currently do it. I mean, what do they do? I don't think they do it in hockey until the whole thing's over.
Right.
And pro hockey.
Wrestling, they do it before. They go out to the mat and, it's okay. Shake hands. Now let's kill each other.
I mean something, but I'm with Tom in that we're giving young men and women more and more of an out and less of a reason to learn from victory, to be humble, and from defeat to be gracious. College sports, again, it's become big business. I think, these young men and women can make money on their name and likeness. Good for them. I'm all for it. Free market. I just think, with the transfer rule, with everything else that's catered to them, I think that is important to preserve in the sports that it currently is part of. I'm not going to say it should, be inserted into every sport that doesn't currently do it. But,
I think we have a lack of accountability, and that's one of the things that drives Izzo crazy. But maybe there are different ways to get that. You can have a reasonable debate about that, but
sure, I agree. I just think to get rid of that because of what happened with Juwan Howard.
But it's happened a lot. I mean, it's happened. I can give you 10 incidents in high schools where they have had brawls, and you have games now that are scheduled at times where fans can't be there. And you're right. I mean, it shows where we have come, or I guess regressed in some ways. But what do you think the learning experience was for Michigan players to see their coach behave that way? Not only not have a hearty handshake, but a blow by, and then they started pointing at each other, and Juwan was clearly the aggressor. I don't think that the elbow touch with the left hand was really threatening to him. Some might disagree, but then when Juwan threw that punch, what lesson does that teach?
I think it teaches that you are going to be held accountable for your actions, and I think that lessons can be learned with every outcome, and you can see that that's what not to do in a heated situation. I think there's an opportunity to learn from everything if you're willing to learn and keeping an open mind. And I don't think Juwan did himself any favors in his post-game press conference. Saying things like, "I had to defend myself." Like, give me a break. Right.
Well, there was a statement last night, Larry, and I don't know who wrote it, but I'll go to my grave believing Juwan Howard did not.
Well, I would imagine that he had a lot to say with the tone of that message, and that he was advised that he should have that message, and he relatively genuinely believed what he wrote at the end of the day, because there's no way a day later, knowing he's going to be suspended, that he could die on that hill.
Well, when you know you're going to be suspended and you might lose 5 games in your team's stretch drive for a tournament, it has a very sobering effect. But I think it would have been nice if that statement had at least gotten Joe Krabenhoff's name right.
Well, and that's where the people around him, whether it's Phil Martelli or Tom Wyrot or maybe a traveling athletic director or associate athletic director, could maybe get to Juwan before he gets to the media and say, "Hey, this is not going to look good. I understand why you were mad. I understand why you had a quick lapse in judgment there, but you might want to say this or something like it." Now, whether anyone advised Juwan between the swipe and his press conference to do that, I guess we don't know. We don't know at this point.
Apparently, he didn't learn much from the Mark Turgeon episode a year ago.
Right, no doubt. And I think it would be interesting to know if Juwan's punishment included some sort of anger management mediation, training, whatnot, because there's a bit of a problem and a pattern here with him in terms of his temper. And this comes from someone with a temper who, when Ypsilanti Braves and JV punched one of my teammates in the handshake line, I slugged the next guy I saw.
That's why you like handshake lines.
Well,
think back, that was a knockout punch you threw, Larry.
Well, and, as my friends, we can transition to China now, as my friends were going off on a group text about what Juwan Howard did, and this is a mix of Michigan and Michigan State fans from Ann Arbor, I said, as someone who has slugged a couple of you, that was out of line, because I have punched friends, like dead in the face, over some dumb things, but also at the time I thought were principled things when I was 15, 16 years old. So you're talking to an Italian hothead himself, like Tom Izzo, and hopefully Izzo gets to the end of his career without having an episode like this.
Woody Hayes moment,
right?
Yeah.
So I found out about Juwan Howard's swipe, I'll call it, in the Beijing airport, where they had us arrive 6 hours early, which was probably 3 to 4 hours earlier than I thought. Nice. I was entering my timesheets online, and then Noah Trister, former Michigan AP sports writer down in Baltimore, said, "Hey, Larry, look at this." And I said something I can't say on the radio right now. And I sat down and wrote 600 words of prep, which, with the blanks filled in, hit the wire as I was arriving in Ann Arbor, justifying my Ann Arbor Dateline on an Uber after 3 weeks and a day away from my family. So we can go there now.
Rob, before we get into the Olympics, let the record show that Larry has admitted about his temper and hot-blooded Italian nature. I've been known, as producers will tell you, to have a temper too. But as long as we've been friends, we have never punched each other in the face.
No, but we should share that we do swipe at each other verbally many times, including you recently telling me that I always think someone travels when we're at the Breslin Center. And I stand by my traveling calls. But
well, that was a reference to you, traveling abroad and going to all these Olympic games.
So number 4, China, Vancouver, Italy, and Russia.
Nice. Well, what did you make of these Olympic games before we get into the specific performances? But the way that they were staged, the omnipresent threat of COVID, and the geopolitical tensions when the Russian Olympic Committee, I guess Russia as a nation wasn't allowed to be there. I'm not sure why their Olympic Committee was, but they're there, and you don't know shortly after the closing games if bullets are being fired.
Yeah, it was as interesting as it could be. We'll start with the COVID protocol. I had to be tested twice before I went there. We'll just say, for lack of a better term, the 3 days before. One could be anywhere, and I went to a local CVS here in Ann Arbor, and one had to be by a Chinese-approved clinic or facility. And the closest one to me was in Livonia, where I went and got an antibody test I wasn't expecting that gave me a bruise that lasted a week. I hope that place was legitimate. And then, I had to do all kinds of things on different apps to get access into the country. Our credential was our visa.
Right.
And I got tested at the airport along with every other person who arrived. And out of the 30 to 40 COVID tests I've had through the nose, it was the most aggressive test of my life, and I'll have nightmares about it. It tickled the back of my brain. And that was the one that popped a lot of athletes, including some, world caliber, gold medal, caliber people on my beats of ski jumping and Nordic combined, quarantining some people, some Olympians, some media people for like 12 days where they were in a hotel room with food brought to them, tested daily. They had to test 2 days in a row negative to get out. One guy I covered in Nordic combined, which is ski jumping and a cross-country race, same day, different times, obviously. This guy was a world-class, his last name was Reber from Norway.
Okay.
Jarl is his first name, Magnus middle. And I can spell all those even for you. So he's winning the cross-country race by a minute, and he's supposed to turn left. And he turned right.
Ooh.
And his minute lead turned into 0, and he finished like 6th. And he basically just had, a COVID haze brain fart. And I felt
was the course not marked appropriately?
Yeah, it is. I retweeted it at some point. You don't have to go too far down on my timeline to see it.
Yeah.
But he was supposed to turn left pretty clearly, and he turned right and just did a loop. And, I felt bad for the guy. And the next day he went home. It was his choice.
Yeah.
So in terms of the geopolitical ramifications, a lot of media people were talking about that and writing about that. Athletes were very hesitant to go there, even when asked. There was a Turkish skier who wouldn't answer my questions. Not the first time that's happened, but in training one day he had a crescent moon and stars that represented to many the Muslim minority group that human rights groups say are facing a genocide right now. The Urgoys, is that how you say their name? I mean, I'm mispronouncing it. The UG, it's the minority Muslim group.
Right, right.
So on his feet, he had, the Uyghurs. He had Uyghurs. He had the crescent moon and stars that to many represented that region. And it created a bit of a firestorm online. So the next day, I was looking for him, and he changed his skis, and I asked him about it, and he just said, I'm a sportsman. I'm not answering those questions. And he follows me on Twitter, and I sent him a direct message, and he ignored that too. So he kind of played the middle, where he made a statement but then didn't really want to. And I don't know if somebody got to him or not. I think the last story I retweeted was from John Leister, one of our international top writers, and he got into this topic quite a bit and only really got a couple people to bite. And I attempted as well. Athletes just don't want to go there, whether they were afraid of ramifications from China, or if they just truly are just sportsmen and not going to, go there. But
I get all that nationalism stuff and how dangerous it can be, but then I see the celebrations and the medal counts and all of that, and I think it's something that you can use as you choose. But one thing about all of the aggressive testing and the fact that swab tickled the back of your brain, the good news is at least it hit something. I know some media members that could have gone all the way back through their cranium.
Yeah, well, there's there is something there most of the time, but with the 13-hour time zone, it wasn't clear. Just to give you some other detail, we were limited to one of the approved hotels, the approved shuttle, approved taxi, and venues, and we could not go anywhere else. There was a time where I interviewed the two deaf musicians that were part of the halftime show. Right.
And congratulations for your role in that, by the way.
Thank you. It was an honor. My first interview in American Sign Language. And both my parents are deaf and my nephews are deaf.
Yeah.
Some of your listeners don't know that, or many of them. So they said, yeah, we can do it at noon LA time. And I said, great. And then I did the math, and I'm like, wow, it's 4 a.m. here. I know that's like, noon for you, Jack, but for me, that was tough. So I stayed up all night and interviewed them. And then I got out to I felt great, was really proud, and knew my parents would be proud, my nephews, my sister. And I went out to the shuttle bus, and there was going to be a 90-minute wait. It was the only 90-minute wait on the whole calendar. And I honestly dropped a pretty loud F-bomb and tried to convince the security guard. I F-bombed to no one in particular, not to the security guard volunteer, but I did plead with him just to let me walk half a mile to my hotel, and he said he couldn't. There was also a fence and a police guard there to prevent me from doing that. But so we were fenced in, locked in. You really had, nowhere to go outside of those places I said. The Chinese government did allow some select small media groups to tour the Great Wall of China from Beijing, but I missed that. I didn't go to Beijing until the last 2 nights, and I got to go to the gold medal game, and that was kind of cool. But I was a 4 or 5 hour bus ride away from Beijing. That included 3 15-minute stops at a rest area. I was kind of wondering, is this a union thing or what's going on? And the bus ride, we went about 55 miles an hour on a deserted highway with a police escort.
Wow.
Almost like a funeral procession. It was like, what is happening here? I mean, there were just so many bizarre moments, but I do have to say, and I want to say, that the Chinese people, the rank and file, the volunteers that were in the media room, in the hotels, testing me, serving us food, drinks. Carlsberg is my new favorite beer because I got the weakest Jameson pour of my life, so I switched to beer real quick. They were so nice. Yeah. And I will hear them in English say thank you and you're welcome for the rest of my life in the sweetest voices.
Yeah.
This one volunteer came up to me at the ski jump where I, basically made an office, and she said, I just want to tell you, you're very nice, and almost made me tear up. I could probably work one up for you right now if I wanted to. But I mean, the people were truly so nice, and it's another lesson for me and hopefully others that have these experiences that you cannot judge a country by its government, and whether it's China or Russia or the United States. As Jim Whelan says, most people are good people. A few jerks, in parentheses, are everywhere. My office, your office, and the post office. And that truly is it is true.
Yeah, and I think in all of my trips to Asia, especially China, Larry, I can tell you I've never had a bad experience with the Chinese people. I think that they are, just as you say, now the Chinese government is another issue. I wanted to ask you if you think these Olympics will be remembered for what happened to Michaela Shiffrin and Valieva, and or do you think that more people, when it's all said and done, will remember Eileen Gu and Nathan Chen?
I think it's a slam dunk to the negative, to the Valieva, to lesser extent Shiffrin, and lesser extent Shaun White, end of his career without a medal. But really, the Valieva story, I think, transcended in a bad way.
Yeah.
Where my wife Suzanne, who's not really a sports person but likes figure skating, like a lot of people, I think, pretty popular sport in the Olympics, just appalled. And I talked to a Russian journalist there, a woman who's based in Russia, and she said that these young skaters live with their coaches and they don't live a very good life. And it's sad. I am not in that sport enough to know what to do about it. You could probably have Christine Brennan on, an expert in this field, who probably be happy to come on because she's a good person and she's got a book to sell.
Right.
So, Toledo's own.
That's right.
So you could dive into that more with her, but I think that was the story. And back to the pandemic, they allowed 150,000 invited guests to attend the games. And there were times that, it was pretty festive and fun. And then there was times like at the gold medal match, you could tell that the people watching really didn't have any idea what they were watching.
Right.
But I want to say that they pulled it off. There were certainly some athletes that missed the whole thing or missed some of the competitions, but they pulled it off, the Chinese government and people. Back to the COVID, they cleaned everything. Like everyone, so many people were in hazmat suits. So like everyone at the airport was in a hazmat suit. The cleaning people at our hotel were in hazmat suits. The bar staff ended up being in hazmat suits. The manager somehow got out of that. But it was unbelievable. They sprayed down floors, walls, tires of buses. I'm still chuckling at that one. Outside the bus, they're spraying it down, some kind of cleaning agent on the wheels outside, and I'm thinking, wow, like that seems kind of over the top, but maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah.
But it was a trip. And I will say, Eileen Gu, the American-born daughter of a Chinese native who became the first three-time medalist in what they call action sports, basically like the X Games type snowboard skiing, first three-time Olympic medalist in a sport. Maybe the most articulate person I've ever been around.
Headed to Stanford, right?
Yes, 1580 ACT or SAT, which made sense after I spoke to her. Like, wow, so impressive. And, I was 3 feet away from interviewing her for, 10 minutes. I didn't really ask a lot of questions. I just recorded and typed up the quotes for my colleagues, Eddie Hells and Pat Graham from Colorado.
Right.
It was also really cool to be there for Shaun White's last run down the half pipe. I got to see that and got to interview him and took some really cool pictures of him. So that was neat. My sports I got really into, and one of my
did a lot of preparation. You were ready when you went.
I looked at it as the best opportunity and the greatest challenge of my career.
Yeah.
And I attacked it that way from October till a few days ago.
Hey, Rob, we tried to get Larry to practice the ski jump. He refused.
Yeah, that was a hard no.
Now that you've been there, any chance that you would reconsider, or are we more likely to see you in biathlon? You're not going to bring a gun to Breslin Center, right?
No, the ski jumping would be at the top of my list of things I wouldn't do. Like being in the octagon with a UFC fighter, I would probably be more likely to do, and I'd try to run and just quit. But no, I would not. I would not do that at all. And on top of the one young woman who came up to tell me I was very nice and almost made me cry, the other side of the compliments, one of my colleagues from Germany said, "Oh, you're the ski jumping guy." And I'm like, "Yeah, good. I am. Actually, I couldn't have told you two things about the sport in early October, but I can now." And I will say that Nordic Combined, I think, is probably the most underrated, appreciated sport on the planet. I mean, to have the skills to be a ski jumper who could clear 1.5 football fields, American football fields. Imagine that. Imagine jumping off something and you clear 1.5 football fields. That's what they do. And then they go do a cross-country race in altitude, -20 wind chill for 10 kilometers. I mean, it's outrageous. But, you know, it's not a big deal in America, and it probably never will be, and people probably think I'm crazy, but I got into it. I got way into it. And, you know, thrilled I got to do it. Really happy to be home 3 weeks and a day away from my family, especially my daughter's senior year, my son's sophomore year, and you know, he breaks his ankle in basketball.
Oh, no. I didn't know that.
A bulging fracture, and so, you know, dealing with that on the other side of the planet, or just, you know, feeling for him, and so he's in a walking boot and has high school tryouts here in baseball in 2 weeks, so that stinks. So it's amazing opportunity, you know, getting to see and work with colleagues from places such as the Philippines, Italy, Egypt, Germany, you know, just off the top of my head.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's so cool. I mean, APA had about 100 people there. That includes writers, photographers, techs, editors, executives, and, you know, it's an honor. It's an absolute honor. And
congratulations on a job well done. Am I going to see you Saturday afternoon for the Purdue-Michigan State game?
Yes. I will be there, and I will be at the Michigan State women's game as well, and I will be at both of Michigan's game this week, too. So it's back to the woodshed here, I guess.
Well, I kept track of all the traveling calls you missed while you were in China, so we can go through those one by one. But congratulations on a great experience, and welcome back. We're proud to have your first radio interview back after the Beijing Games.
Hey, will you pay as well as you do, Jack, anytime?
Larry Lage. I actually do have some money for him from Press Pass. All right, we're going to take a break. When we get back in studio, one of my favorite guys, and his team is making some noise. You don't believe it? You can check out Ionia. And they're going to be an interesting team to watch here in districts. And who knows? This league championships are not completely decided yet. Dale Beard is in the house. He'll join us in just a moment on The Drive with Jack.
At Culver's, we believe there's a right way to prepare a North Atlantic cod fillet sandwich, the traditional way. By traditional, we mean the way it's done all across the Midwest. We start with the finest, hand-cut cod fillets, batter each by hand, and cook crispy golden to order. No shortcuts, just hot and flaky, hand-battered goodness. So good.
It's a tradition, all right. Culver's North Atlantic cod fillet dinner or sandwich. Welcome to Delicious.
If your next event or holiday party has you feeling stressed and overwhelmed, don't be. Voted Lansing's best new restaurant by Top of the Town, One North Kitchen and Bar has catering for every occasion from an award-winning chef. Book your next event by calling 517-901-5001. One North is the perfect place to get with family and friends for this bowl season. Also voted Lansing's best sports bar, they have over 40 TVs, feature scratch cooking, amazing craft cocktails, and the largest draft beer selection in West Lansing. That's One North Kitchen and Bar, where friends and family gather to make good times great.
As families and communities across Michigan gear up for an historic back-to-school season, Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join their dedicated team of school bus drivers. They offer competitive wages and paid training, quality benefits, flexible schedules, and most of all, endless opportunities to make a difference. Apply today at deanjobs.com to join this critical effort to help students return to learn this fall. deanjobs.com.
NBC News Radio, I'm Michael Kastner. Russia is taking the first step toward military action in Ukraine. Troops are reportedly moving into 2 breakaway areas at this very moment. Russia gave the order after recognizing the territories as independent. U.S. UN Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield called Russia's statement that its troops are on peacekeeping duties nonsense.
Russia's clear attack on Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity is unprovoked. It is an attack on Ukraine's status as a UN member state. It violates a basic principle of international law.
President Biden is expected to respond with new sanctions. People with older cell phones are waking up without service. AT&T is the first major carrier to shut down its 3G network today. And the trial of the only Louisville police officer charged in the deadly raid on Breonna Taylor's home starts today. Brett Hankinson is accused of endangering neighbors when he fired blindly into apartments. Michael Kastner, NBC News Radio.
Jack Ebling here with Matt Sloan at Graph of Okemos. Matt, people buying cars different ways now with inventory changes.
They certainly are, Jack. It's a wild time, but we're still selling them. You might not see them on the lot, but they're still coming in every day, and we're still delivering them. So what we're finding is a lot of people, they come in, and they actually place an order for the vehicle instead of finding one on the lot that they want. Then that comes in within 7-8 weeks, and they take delivery.
We'll still want that great Graph service. They're making friends.
When it's your moment, that once-in-a-lifetime moment, you don't just want jewelry. You can get that anywhere. You want a memory that will go down in history, your moment. We're Medawar, crafted with exquisite style, quality, and love, so your present will be stunning every time you look at it, every time someone notices it, and they will notice. We've devoted our lives to this art, and we're proud to share it with you. The gift you want to give is here.
Medawar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, Portage, and Brighton.
There is definitely an art to handcrafting a rich, creamy Culver's concrete mixer. Start by scooping our so incredibly fresh vanilla or chocolate frozen custard. Then add whatever mix-ins you crave. Cookie dough, salted caramel, Butterfinger. Blend till you get the perfect balance of goodies from top to bottom. Indulge in a thing of beauty.
Come to Culver's and let us create a concrete mixer masterpiece just for you-know-who. Welcome to Delicious.
Major League Baseball and the Players Association are still making little progress in their effort to end the league's lockout. Reports say the sides met Monday for nearly 5 hours and didn't come to terms on a new collective bargaining agreement. The lockout has already affected spring training, which was delayed until at least March 5th. The sides are still working to avoid moving opening day, which is scheduled for March 31st. There remain some big economic issues, such as competitive balance tax, minimum salaries, and revenue sharing that have impeded negotiations. Michigan men's basketball coach Juwan Howard is being suspended for the rest of the regular season. He received the suspension after hitting a Wisconsin assistant coach in the face following Michigan's loss Sunday to the Badgers. NHL last night, the Bruins beat Colorado 5-1. Carolina in overtime won at Philadelphia 4-3. Vancouver topped Seattle 5-2. And Calgary topped Winnipeg 3-1. That's sports. I'm Seth Everett. NBC News Radio.
You're listening to The Drive with Jack Ebling.
What we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law.
SpotlightMediaStudios.com.
Welcome back. It is The Drive with Jack, Spotlight Radio Network. Jack Ebling here in studio today, 105 West Allegan. My producer, Rob Bennett. And in the house, across the table, very happy to welcome in Dale Beard, best known locally as the guy who made Irvin Johnson. Taught him everything he knew about the game. Standout at Everett's a little bit different, Dale, watching you wear that Sexton stuff. Yeah, it's a beautiful suit, by the way, you got on there.
Well, thank you, Jack. Thank you. Brand new.
Yeah.
Just got it last week, so compliments of Desmond Ferguson.
And congratulations. What an honor to be recognized the way you are going to be by Ferris State University. Can you tell us a story?
You know, Coach Borgman, head coach at Ferris now, gave me a call about a month and a half ago and said that, hey, they wanted to put me in the Greater Wall of Fame up at Ferris. And I was shocked, you know. I mean, it's been over 30-some years since I've been to Ferris. But, you know, it was an honor, you know, to get the call and you know, go up this Saturday and get honored. And, you know, I'm looking forward for it. I'm pretty excited.
What number did you wear?
Still wore number 12.
Still 12. You didn't give that up?
No. That was one of my favorite numbers, man. I don't know why, but I just picked it ever since junior high school and just wore it through junior high school, and all the way through college.
And we were talking during the break how close you were to being a Michigan State Spartan and a collegiate teammate of Irvin. And if you'd had this little growth spurt you had a little bit earlier, you could have been wearing green.
Green and white. It's just a tab too short, you know. And Judd knew it, and but you know, he really, you know, wanted me to come. I wanted to be a Spartan, so it just didn't work out. But I'm still a Spartan in my heart.
Yeah. Well, it's always great when your alma mater recognizes all of your contributions, achievements. In your collegiate career, do you remember how many points you scored?
I believe I'm the 5th leading scorer.
You scored more than Irvin did at Michigan State in his 2 years.
Yes.
We know that, right?
Yes. So I got to recalculate that. I'm not sure. I just know that I was like the 5th leading scorer in Ferris history.
Yeah.
So they was supposed to send me some of that information.
Yeah.
In case, you know, you ask me.
Right. Well, I'll get it. If they don't send it to you, I'll find it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a great evening, man. They got a game on Saturday at 3:00, and they're going to do the ceremony at halftime.
Who do they play?
I think they're playing Grand Valley.
Oh, okay. That's a big game.
Yeah. So it's going to be a good
How
time.
many players has Ferris State recognized? You know, you go up and you see the banners at Michigan State, and that is a select group. They don't do that for everybody who's a good player. You got to be better than that. How many have they recognized?
So far, I haven't been up there probably in maybe 5 years. Last time I went, they had maybe 20 some guys they recognized. Actually, they put you know, I don't know if you remember Gerald Busby.
Sure.
He
was a Spartan.
He was a Spartan. He's in the Hall of Fame up there.
Okay.
And so he was one of the ones that kind of, you know, got me a lot of points up there when we were there. So,
nice.
You know, with the assists he gave. But, they recognized about like at least 20-some guys. So
what did Irvin say when you told him?
Oh, man, he was – I can see that big smile on his face when I told him. He said, oh, man, that's a great honor for you, man, and congratulations. I'm proud of you. Because I credit him for a lot of my success, you know, from high school and all the stuff I learned from him. And he taught me over the years.
Right.
And so I just kind of duplicated and, you know, ended up being a pretty good player at Ferris.
Oh, what did George Fox say? Have you talked to him about it?
You know, I talked to George. I called him probably 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I told him about it. He says he wishes he could come up.
Yeah.
Because of his health right now, he can't make it. But he was pretty excited. I talked to him. I wanted to just tell him, you know, hey, what I was going up there for a couple minutes on the phone, and we ended up staying on the phone for about a half an hour.
So I know you've got some pretty good players on your team. When you tell them that you're being honored and, you know, you're in select company, do they look at you like, all right, coach, let's go. Let's play one-on-one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they challenge me every single day. They want to know all the stories, you know, so I challenge them like and some shootouts sometimes. And I tell them, hey, put a little incentive. If you guys beat me, you know, you're getting a Moneyball T-shirt or a polo. And,
there you go.
Man, they chunk all those shots up there, and I'm sitting there smiling, just knocking them down from three. And
well, let's talk a little bit about your team. And coming on, that was a big win Friday night against Ionia. That's a sweep of the Bulldogs. And now, championship still, I guess, in some dispute, and then you're getting ready for districts at Portland.
Yeah, yes, we are. A couple weeks to districts to start. Right now we're sitting even with Catholic Central.
Mm-hmm. And you get them coming up, right?
Next Tuesday. We got Charlotte coming up this Friday.
Okay.
So
where are those games?
The one in our game?
Yeah, at Charlotte?
It's at Charlotte.
And what about your game with Catholic?
It will be our final home game, senior night. So it's going to be rocking and rolling.
You know what? I want to come to that, but there's this little Michigan State reschedule that's going to mess it up.
Yes, I know.
Otherwise, I would come to your game.
Yeah. Yes, because we're going to be we need Catholic to beat Ionia this Friday.
Okay,
and that's how close the race is. And then if we take care of our business this Friday,
then you could
and
set it up for championship game.
For championship game, yeah. And so we're just trying to just control our destiny right now.
All right, I have to ask you something else because we've been talking to everybody else about it, Dale. What's the maddest you've ever been after a game? And high school basketball, you got the greeting line. What do you think of the greeting line? And have you ever seen an altercation going through it?
No, I haven't. I've just I've been through a line where guys just kind of give you the playoff, the half shake or the half fist bump and keep it going.
Yeah.
That's normal. But other than that, I haven't seen really nothing big going
You've seen
on.
the dead fish, but you haven't seen
nothing.
A little Juwan swipe.
Yeah, nothing like that. That's nothing. No, I haven't seen nothing like that. So
we call it, do you want to be a boxer?
And the maddest I've been after a game is probably a game last year against Ionia in the district finals. I thought, I'm one not big on officiating. I don't complain about officiating, but I just feel you got to score more points than other teams.
Well, you're an upbeat, positive guy. It takes a lot to get you fired up that way, right?
Well, yeah. Because they haven't been that far since the Valentine days.
Oh yeah.
And I thought we kind of really got the shaft a little bit, and I told the guys after the game, I was really proud of them. But some of the calls, because the district finals were in Ionia.
Yeah.
And so I congratulated the coach. They had a good team, and I'm real close. I mean, the coach are real close. So I just thought the officiating was a little off center. So that kind of got me upset a little bit about the officiating.
Good luck to you and the Sexton team moving forward. No game tonight.
Nope, off tonight.
What are you doing tonight? You going to watch the Michigan State game?
I'm going to watch the Michigan State game.
We're getting together. I got a little group. You're welcome to join us. We're going to get together, probably 4 of us. Jay Green.
Yeah.
And Rob Bennett.
Yeah.
And a guy named Trent Bally, who'll be here in a little bit. Covers Michigan State. And so we're going to have a little fun. You're welcome. I'll send you a message on where we're going to be.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Dale Beard. He is the latest honoree for Ferris State University and one of the Bulldog greats. And we'll never forget the 77 Everett Vikings state champions. We'll be right back in just a minute. And Jim Stark is in the house, Executive Director of the Michigan Sports Legacy Conservancy. We have lots to talk about. We'll be right back on The Drive with Jack.
At Culver's, we believe there's a right way to prepare a North Atlantic cod fillet sandwich, the traditional way. By traditional, we mean the way it's done all across the Midwest. We start with the finest, hand-cut cod fillets, batter each by hand, and cook crispy golden to order. No shortcuts, just hot and flaky, hand-battered goodness. So good.
It's a tradition, all right. Culver's North Atlantic cod fillet dinner or sandwich. Welcome to Delicious.
If your next event or holiday party has you feeling stressed and overwhelmed, don't be. Voted Lansing's best new restaurant by Top of the Town, One North Kitchen and Bar has catering for every occasion from an award-winning chef. Book your next event by calling 517-901-5001. One North is the perfect place to get with family and friends for this bowl season. Also voted Lansing's best sports bar, They have over 40 TVs, feature scratch cooking, amazing craft cocktails, and the largest draft beer selection in West Lansing. That's One North Kitchen and Bar, where friends and family gather to make good times great.
As families and communities across Michigan gear up for an historic back-to-school season, Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join their dedicated team of school bus drivers. They offer competitive wages and paid training, quality benefits, flexible schedules, and most of all, endless opportunities to make a difference. Apply today at deanjobs.com to join this critical effort to help students return to learn this fall. deanjobs.com.
It's not just old phones that may be affected by the coming 3G network's shutdown. Roadside assistance programs, medical devices, and home alarms that still depend on 3G networks to receive updates will also be impacted. Businesses are urging customers who use these devices to either replace or upgrade their current devices in order to avoid a service disruption. AT&T is set to shut down its 3G network tomorrow, with other carriers following throughout the year. It looks like Instagram is increasing its daily time limit. Those who use the app on their phones will now see a range from 30 minutes to 3 hours. That means the option for 10 or 15 minutes is gone. The lower limit had been added as a way to avoid social media addiction. This comes after the Take a Break feature was released, reminding users to put down their phones every so often. And the IRS is allowing taxpayers to opt out of their facial recognition technology to verify identities. The IRS announced earlier this month they would transition away from the ID.me platform. Tech Report, Mark Mayfield, NBC News Radio.
Jack Ebling here with Matt Sloan at Graph of Okemos. Matt, people buying cars different ways now with inventory changes.
They certainly are, Jack. It's a wild time, but we're still selling them. You might not see them on the lot, but they're still coming in every day, and we're still delivering them. So what we're finding is a lot of people, they come in and they actually place an order for the vehicle instead of finding one on the lot that they want. Then that comes in within 7-8 weeks, and they take delivery.
We'll still want that great Graph service. They're making friends.
When it's your moment, that once-in-a-lifetime moment, you don't just want jewelry. You can get that anywhere. You want a memory that will go down in history, your moment. We're Medawar, crafted with exquisite style, quality, and love, so your present will be stunning every time you look at it, every time someone notices it, and they will notice. We've devoted our lives to this art, and we're proud to share it with you. The gift you want to give is here.
Medawar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, Portage, and Brighton.
There is definitely an art to handcrafting a rich, creamy Culver's concrete mixer. Start by scooping our so incredibly fresh vanilla or chocolate frozen custard. Then add whatever mix-ins you crave. Cookie dough, salted caramel, Butterfinger. Blend till you get the perfect balance of goodies from top to bottom. Indulge in a thing of beauty.
Come to Culver's and let us create a concrete mixer masterpiece just for you-know-who. Welcome to Delicious.
Jack Ebling.
Just trying to grind through camp here. Good fundamentals, build our conditioning, just keep getting better every day.
SpotlightMediaStudios.com.
Welcome back. It is The Drive with Jack, Spotlight Radio Network. I want to welcome in Jim Stark, Executive Director, Michigan Sports Legacy Conservancy. And Jim, you heard me talking to Dale and Rob about that get-together tonight.
I know I'm not invited. You don't have to be nice, Jack. I'm not on the A list.
I just want to make it very clear you're not invited.
I clearly know my position in Jack Ebling's world. Trust me.
Now, if you want to go and park cars, something like that,
yeah,
we
I can get you drinks. Yeah, did you ever see the? I get the guy get your sandwiches and stuff, and you can shoot my in my feet and make me dance. I got it. I know my place in life.
I don't really think of Jim Stark, Rob, when I think of like a pool boy. Somebody coming to never mind.
Wow, he's just. Like I say, he's just not a nice person, Rob. Not a nice person.
All right, let's talk about lots of stuff going on.
Man,
the NBA had its top 75 players. We talked about the baseball list.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. I haven't spent a lot of time looking at that list, but I know it came out.
Yeah, and Isaiah Thomas on it, and Dave Bing on it.
Oh yeah, well, I'm
Dave
sure Lanier's on it.
Yeah,
DeBuscher and
I don't know. Dumars. Dennis Rodman was on it.
See. Rodman became such another character when he left Detroit. He was one player in Detroit, and he became a whole different player in San Antonio and Chicago. I mean, he was more of a team player in Detroit. He became whatever he became everywhere else.
But if you picked an all-time NBA all-defensive team,
he'd be
he
on
would
it.
be one of the 5, right?
He and I'd have to put, and if maybe not on the team, but certainly on honorable mention, Ben Wallace, because they played defense ferociously.
Right. Ben, for his size.
Oh, phenomenal.
The guy's like 6'7".
Phenomenal. He was the hardest worker, and he was so quick side to side.
Yeah.
You couldn't double team him because he was so quick.
Be hard to put him on over a Bill Russell or a Hakeem Olajuwon, but he'd be in the yes. Yeah, he'd be a guy you might want to have on your team.
Yes.
On the bench.
Yeah. If I can't get the top 5 guys, he's in my next group probably.
Did you watch any of the NBA All-Star Weekend, either the game itself, which I think they just Steph Curry just made another 3-pointer.
Very little.
Yeah.
It to me, the baseball or the basketball All-Star is a wannabe. They're trying to make more of an event that isn't there. It's almost an insider's thing.
Yeah.
The baseball home run derby captures everybody's interest. They have nothing in basketball to really emulate that, and they're trying to.
But it's better than the Pro Bowl.
Oh, it's one of the most competitive games.
Yeah.
If they made it competitive, I'd love to watch it. But they don't. They make it, the defense. No, but it is a real game. It's an exhibition game. But it's fun to watch.
It gets lively in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and if the score is close.
Yeah.
But it's fun to watch them.
Yeah.
It's showtime. It's who could. But as far as the weekend, I think it's awful thin. The 3-point shooting has become a pretty good event, but it's thin. It just doesn't give you a whole weekend like baseball has.
Second tallest player ever to win a 3-point shooting contest, Karl Anthony Towns, 6'11". Do you know who was taller?
I want to say it was it wasn't Larry Bird.
Nope, he's 6'9".
Yeah.
The guy was 7 foot tall, and he led his team to an NBA championship.
Oh, it was from Dallas.
Dirk Nowitzki. Very good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, I had opened the right drawer, Jack.
Yeah.
But
you were
Nowitzki
rummaging through it.
Nowitzki was one of the first Europeans to play that position now that's so prevalent.
Right.
But he was one of the first to be great at it.
Truly a stretch 4.
Yeah, it's true. He invented it. He was one of the inventors of it.
And the slam dunk contest. And I am frankly tired of the slam dunk contest.
That's the problem, Jack. And this is what I'm getting. A home run is a home run is a home run, right? They aren't graded. It's the grading that's the problem.
Yeah.
How many different slam dunks can you do?
Yeah.
Right? So that's the difference. Is a home run, it's still majestic, it's a quantity. Whereas now if you could figure out a way to make slam dunks something other than grading, but how much there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. I agree. And when you think about the number of missed dunks we saw there.
Well, because they're pushing it. They're trying to figure out.
Well, they don't even count the dunk if you lose control of the ball or you don't catch it right. If you start the dunk, that's a dunk.
That should be what they should do, is make it more competitive.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you lose points for that.
Yeah.
Now you're going to see guys trying to figure, well, I don't want to lose. But as it is now, it's just there's no downside.
Right. It's a show.
It's a show, but it could be a better show.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one of the other differences with that, Jim, is most of us at some point growing up, maybe not in organized baseball, but, playing around, we've hit a ball. We've hit a home run.
Exactly.
Most of us have at some point, the ball has hit the bat and,
If nothing else, wiffle ball, plastic ball.
Exactly.
Hitting home runs.
How many has dunked?
Well, unless you have a 6-foot basket in your yard, but that's not very many.
Right.
Yep. No, it's definitely a familiarity thing. And to your point, Jack, it's become old hat. They got to change the way they do it. Maybe it's how many dunks you get in a time period or so. I don't know, but it's not working the way it is.
Right.
When it started, it was cool because you saw guys do something they've never seen before. Now it's like, what else is new? What else you got?
So Troy Weaver and the Pistons now. Well, what's the goal the rest of the way?
They're trying to get to competitive every night and getting a rotation.
They're not trying to be in the first 3 picks.
Oh, I don't think so, Jack. No. This whole tanking thing. When I struggle with that.
Yeah.
It's interesting because baseball, one of the holdups is this tanking thing.
Yeah.
And it's the players that are pushing, saying the teams are tanking. They're the ones that want the first number of draft picks to go into a lottery like basketball. I find that fascinating. But getting back to your question, I struggle with it. I know they do it. But if I couldn't follow a team that did it. I couldn't I don't think the Pistons ever had done it. Now, they did it last year a little bit, but they played their guys. They played hard. They just didn't play their best players.
They were competitive.
They were competitive.
Yeah.
So I think they want to be competitive, and they want to start figuring out who's their rotation.
Will they get competitive before the season ends?
Well, they have good nights. They have nights.
Yeah, 1 out of 6.
So we know they can do it. I still think that Cade Cunningham is trying to figure out what he is and who he is and what his role is. And the more that Killian Hayes, to me, Jack, keeps getting shoved further and further to the sidelines. I just don't see how he fits in this team. Not with what Cade Cunningham's doing. But I think they're finding Cade Cunningham is what do we do? Do we let him run everything? They don't know that yet.
Do you think that Killian Hayes and Jeremy Grant will be on the roster when the 22-23 season starts?
No. I think the window on Grant is closed. They have one more year of him under control. They'll trade him in the offseason because he's got one more year to a contender who needs that kind of a forward. And he's still a very affordable third contract year. I think Hayes is going to be written off as, you know what, he didn't. It was a gamble, didn't work. And one thing about management now, they don't sit on their mistakes very long. If they make a mistake, they move on. And I think that's where Killian Hayes is going to go.
All right. We're going to see NBA teams start to put it together for what the playoffs are going to be like. We don't really know yet because there's still some guys who are out.
Right.
But has your opinion changed on who we're liable to see in the finals?
No, I don't. No one.
Chris Paul's out now for 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, but you Phoenix is the one that surprises me. I didn't see them having this kind of a staying power and this kind of star power. They've surprised me to the positive side, and the Lakers have surprised me to the negative side. I never thought the Lakers would be at this record at this time of the year. I just thought they had too much talent, and there's too good of players. But this, it's why you play the season, obviously. But I still liked your dark horse of the Bulls.
Yeah.
I don't think they have enough talent yet. But to me, it's still the same.
They're getting Zach LaVine back.
Yeah.
Helps.
It's still the same group. No one is really surprised at where did they come from.
Right.
I think Phoenix is how good they are.
No one knew DeMar DeRozan was going to do that.
Exactly.
He's a better player than he ever was at Toronto or San Antonio.
I think the Western Conference has got the strength. I think the champion will come out of the Western Conference pretty much assuredly. I don't think anyone in the East is going to win over the West.
You don't think Milwaukee could put it together?
I think, to me, they're taking a step backward. I don't think they've grown from their championship.
Yeah.
They have not. If anything, maybe they're. I don't know if Giannis has leveled out. But having said that, they could be the kind of team that wait till the playoffs come.
I still think in the playoffs with Clay getting it together, Draymond coming back, you got to beat the Warriors.
And isn't that amazing? They sunk so far.
Yeah.
And now they're back. I mean, they talk about a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But they still have 2 or 3 of the best players, and the team that kills me is Brooklyn. Brooklyn keeps trying to find the best, and they can't find the right combination. They bring in this superstar, and he goes. They trade Harden to fill. Actually, if there's a team in the East, it might be a sleeper. It might be Philadelphia. Who knows what Harden can do with Embiid if they really get together and say, you know what, let's make a run at this thing. Who knows?
Yeah, they gave up more than just Ben Simmons, though. They also gave up Seth Curry and
Andre Drummond.
Yeah.
Who can still rebound.
Can still help you.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Ben Simmons, why he's such a mercurial figure, why do you think you can win with him? And that's what I don't quite understand. He's never won anywhere. And he sat out most of a year because he was mad. How do you build a win around him?
It looks like Zion Williamson could be on the move. C.J. McCollum went to New Orleans. He hasn't spoken to Zion yet. Damian Lillard, finally, after saying, no, I want to do it here. I want to build it here. Throwing up his hands. He says, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Looks like. So they'll be on the move. But I thought the most interesting story from the All-Star break was LeBron James saying that he's going to play long enough
to play with his son.
To Gordie Howitt.
Yep.
Right? With the sons Marty and Mark.
Well,
he's going to play with Bronny.
Yep. Assuming he's good enough, but okay.
Yeah, but some team is liable to take him just to get his dad.
Yeah,
right?
I found it interesting, too. I can't remember. It was a big star. I should have written it down, Jack, but he said, watch out for LeBron in the playoffs. He will be motivated. It was a big.
It was Magic who said it.
Was it Magic?
Yes, it was.
It was Magic. That's
Yeah.
who it was. Yeah.
Yep.
So he said what? And I thought, wow, that's a pretty strong statement for a team that's under 500 to say they're going to. I mean, but you know what? Guys like LeBron James, like Tiger Woods, when they have that motivation, they can do things we've never dreamed of.
Right.
And maybe he needed to drop this far. He's still scoring 29 points a game. I mean, I don't see LeBron's game has diminished that much at all.
I want to talk baseball and football with you, but before we do that, I have to get your take because you did talk radio in Ann Arbor, and you know Washtenaw County, you know the community, you know the Michigan institutional attitude. Let's say some people would say arrogance. Yeah.
Well, and it's come back to roost. They've ignored, hid over all these decades, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now what do they got? They got the Robert Anderson thing.
Yeah.
They got this crazy Jim Harbaugh interviewing for the head coaching job on the day of signing day.
Yeah, not talking to his staff about it.
One of the prime days of the calendar year. You've got hockey with Mel Pearson, with now charges of hazing. You know, he was the hand-picked successor to Red Berenson.
And that's a national championship team, it looks like.
One of their marquee programs.
Yeah.
Now you've got, and again, because they've got this atmosphere that nothing could tarnish us, right? We're above all that. Well, it's not above that. They had a coach that couldn't go through a handshake line. Is there anything more basic than I don't care how I heard you talking to Dale before. Mm-hmm. I don't care how mad you are. Mm-hmm. You go through the hand. It's one of the traditions of basketball. If you can't do that, you don't belong on the court. I don't care how mad you get.
But if they don't have it for the NBA and they don't have it for college football and they don't have it, maybe women's basketball, they don't have it. I can't remember if it's everywhere, but is it necessary?
Well, that's
Tom Izzo says it is.
To me, that's not the question to ask.
Okay.
The question is, do you get rid of it because you're afraid of somebody getting in a fight? If there was a reason, we didn't have time, whatever it might be, okay?
High school sports now, I mean, they have come to the realization that we have issues, so they're not even going to play games sometimes with fans in the stands.
Right. Or evenings on Fridays versus Sunday afternoons. But that's what I'm saying. When you make decisions out of negativity, out of fear, that's never a good decision. We're going to stop the one of the great traditions of college basketball, which it is, because we're afraid. I don't get that.
Okay.
Deal with the problem.
So you're agreeing with Izzo?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And again, going back to Juwan Howard, shame on you. If you can't control your anger, and the whole thing was so stupid. This coach called a timeout. This coach was running the. It was an end of a game it meant nothing because the game was over.
Yeah,
that's what gets me. If it had been some kind of a game where the invitation to the dance would have been on the line or a champion. This was a game just
meaningless.
Meaningless.
Yeah.
And again, I love passion. I love competitiveness. That wasn't either. That was stupidity.
I will never understand
ego.
The idea. And hey, if I'd been Greg Gard, I'd have called the timeout.
Sure you would.
If somebody is pressing my walk-ons.
I want my walk-ons to have one chance to touch the ball. That's why they're out there.
Yeah.
Right? And again, the arrogance of Michigan. He didn't even admit it. He said, no, we were just playing Michigan defense. That's a stupid. Everyone knew what you were doing.
That's not their normal defense,
right?
so they wouldn't have given up 46 points in the second half.
So again, no one checks you. Again, this is something I saw for all the years I was there. There was a level of we can't be touched. Well, that's ridiculous because you know what? So now I think the new president's got to come in and clean it right down to the nap. I'm not saying change. You're going to change your AD and fix it once and for all, or this will keep on going.
Interesting. All right, let's.
Do you disagree with me that this problem is?
I don't think it'll happen.
But it has its roots back to Bo.
Follow the money, Jim.
Right?
There's
I know
too much
but
money.
It has its roots back to Bo. Bo was the one that first started this whole thing that you come see me first. I'll let you know if we want to do.
Yeah.
Well, look what the Anderson thing alone should alarm the university.
All right, Detroit Lions fans now went through a very strange,
the most positive 3-win season ever, or whatever it was.
Yeah, and you see all the memes, the jokes about hang a banner about our former quarterback, won the Super Bowl, all that stuff. What do you think Matthew Stafford's success means, if anything, to the Detroit Lions?
Well, here's what I hope it means. I hope it means once and for all, if there ever was a doubt, to look internally and say, guess what? We are a bad, or we were in a bad organization. Maybe we're not now, but we better examine everything we do because that guy won in the first year out of, and he's the first. We talk about Barry wasting his career. We talk about Calvin Johnson, Lomas Brown. This guy his career was wasted. He still had time to go somewhere else, and he won. That, to me, should solidify the Lions to say, you know what? The problem's in our house. We got to fix it. Wherever it is, it was on us. It wasn't on Matthew Stafford. It wasn't on any of those players. It's on us, and they better own that and make sure they address it every single day. It's a culture situation.
You know Barry.
Sure.
And Calvin.
Yep. Met him.
Do you think that either or both of them sitting there watching Matthew Stafford after the Super Bowl saying, God, I wish I'd done
You know what they felt like? Vindicated.
Vindicated.
They whether they admit it or not, they said, you know what? It wasn't me.
Yeah.
Wasn't me.
Do you think they wish they had gone in and said, you know what, this has been big fun, but let's try something else. We'll get you some draft choices.
I thought Calvin could have. I think Calvin was so beat up he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
He might have.
Barry could have.
He was. Well, they both could have. They were only 30. I think both of them were 30. Yeah. But I think they were so broken down mentally, not physically, even not for Barry, but mentally. Barry didn't have it to give anymore. But to me, the lasting lesson is that the Lions had better. And every day they got to say, are we doing things differently than we did before? In every department, not just one department, because it's on them. They're the only team that hasn't gone to the Super Bowl of the originals, right? Other than there's one other team, one of the latest expansion teams.
The Browns, but the Browns were reconstituted. They went to Baltimore, and then they started New Browns.
Right. They're the only. Do you need more than that?
The only uninterrupted original franchise.
Any excuses they told themselves about should be clearly underwritten now that they were all excuses. Fix the problem because it's all on you. And we all know that, I think. But maybe just now the Fords will finally admit it.
Lions, Browns, Texans, and Jaguars. And the Texans and Jaguars are new.
Well, they're all three new. The Browns are reconstituted.
Yeah, but I'm counting the old Browns.
But they were built from scratch, though. The team was built from scratch, right?
Yeah.
The Lions have been here and haven't. As embarrassing as that, haven't won a playoff game since the one in 90 was it 92, and then haven't won a championship since 50. All those things now to me with this situation with
it's only been 64 years.
With Matthew, Matthew Stafford just put the cherry on the top. Guess what, Lions? It's fix this problem, or I'm not going to spend another dime. That's what fans should say.
So how do they fix it? They can't take the team away from the Fords.
No. They brought in a guy who seems to have the right pedigree, right?
Yeah.
Now, had they brought in our real president instead of Rod Wood as their bookkeeper or whatever the hell he was, I'd have been more. If they'd have brought in Tony Dungy. Now they did bring in
Matt Millen.
Chris
they brought him in and they turned him over to him.
Spielman. No, they brought in Chris Spielman, right? If they bring in Sean Payton into some role, I'll be encouraged that they are doing things differently. But them hiring their accountant as their president was the same old Lions, right? But since then,
Chuck Schmidt, right?
The best buddy. I won't fire
Russ Thomas.
Because he's so. Ever since hiring him, everything they've done has been positive. We'll see if they keep it up. But that hiring they had a chance to bring in a Tony Dungy or some NFL higher level guy to say we're really changing things.
Jim, how old are you?
61.
Will the Lions make the Super Bowl in your lifetime?
Yes,
they will.
Here's why
you plan to live to 104.
Because the hope is you can do it quickly. Look at the Bengals. Did it in 3 years, so you can do it now. Will they?
Yeah, but you can do it. But a lot of teams don't do it.
No, I know.
You have to get the right guy. You have to,
I'm a hopeful guy, Jack. Yeah. I keep always thinking that they're gonna improve because that's the nature of human. We want to get better, so that they really are. Now, will they? I wouldn't bet my farm on it, but yeah, I'd say at this point I will see them in the Super Bowl before I'm too old to remember.
I don't think I will.
Well, you're 20 years older than me, though, Jack. Will we?
I'm just looking at the normal
Jack,
life expectancy.
Look at the TV, Jack.
Right?
The Lions are just to see. You'll just nod your head.
Yeah, that's what I do that a lot now. All right, let's switch to baseball. We're going to cover all the sports today, Rob.
We should have been talking about the Tigers pitching staff, the new catcher, Javi Baez at short.
Yeah.
Instead, we're talking about, are they going to have 8, the top 8 being a lottery or the top 4? The Major League Baseball did pull that whole idea of shortening or cutting the minor league players off the table.
Yeah.
So that's good. But, Jack, here's my question. And you're a pretty smart guy. And you've been in this auto town for a long time, right? Here in Lansing, right?
Yep.
Why is it this constant repeating of behavior? We wait till the last second to get in the negotiation ring and do something.
It's human nature. When you had a term paper due, when you were back in school, when you got the assignment, did you run to the library? No, you waited until 2 nights before and you opened the book.
But my not doing my term isn't costing jobs and money, and so there's so much more at stake here. You can't afford to be
power, it's leverage.
That's what it is. But why couldn't they? I had the same argument when I was on the school board in Farmington. Okay,
Yeah.
Get them all in a room a month before school starts, right?
Because
Don't wait.
neither side sees this as a rising tide floats all boats win-win situation.
Right.
They see it as a zero-sum game.
Right.
You win, I lose.
And it's not. It's everybody can win if you're smart about it.
Yeah.
Now, do you win everything you want? No.
Right.
But no negotiation gets you everything you want.
When do you ever have compromise? I mean, you can't get compromise in Washington now on what day of the week it is.
And it's shameful because the owners put this lockout in place 1st of December to jumpstart the negotiations. And here we are, 80-some days later. They haven't moved one bit. They could have done, forget the lockout. It didn't do anything except for piss the players off.
Right. Well, I'm in the minority when we start talking baseball and this stuff. But you know what?
I know you don't care.
Yawn.
But,
if this thing gets, if they have to cut it to 140 games, I'm okay with that.
But the purest of us, and I'll count Fred Human on my team, right?
Yeah.
Those of us that believe it are frustrated because it doesn't have to be this way. It isn't like they don't have the money. It's all out there. Sit in the room. No one eats. No one sleeps until you get a deal. Because you know what? That deal will be good enough. I promise you that.
I'll tell you what I'm interested in. And it's not when does the season start. It's how do they recoup what they're doing to themselves. Because the players, they don't want doubleheaders.
Right.
And they want off days.
And
they're not going to play the games on Thanksgiving weekend.
And what they're doing does exactly that. Right?
Right.
That's what you're right, Jack. Let's take that mentality and say, okay, we don't want those things to happen. Let's sit down on the 1st of January and we aren't leaving until we have a deal.
Because if the owners say, well, you didn't play the game, so you're only going to get 7/8 of your salaries, the players would never go for that.
It's all these self-fulfilling cycles, right? We don't want to play more games in less days, but yet we're not sitting down negotiating. All we're doing is biting each other in the public, in the media. So what do we end up doing? Playing more games in less days.
Right.
It's crazy, Jack. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you're getting the same result. Change something.
I know that you have been to a record number of All-Star games. As for someone who is not a Detroit Tigers executive, you've probably been to as many All-Star games as anyone in the state.
I've been to 22, I think. Yep.
Wow. 22 All-Star. And how many spring trainings did you go down to?
At least that many.
Really?
Yeah. I'd go every season to spring training, every season to the All-Star game.
I've been to one spring training. One.
Really?
Yeah.
See, now I understand why you don't understand baseball, Jack.
It's always in the middle of basketball tournaments and
spring
stuff.
training, that's like the core of learning and appreciating baseball. All you do is looking at the end result. You got to get in there and learn the kindergarten of baseball, which is spring training. That's where it all starts. That's where you appreciate it.
Well, there are a lot of people I saw there who belong in kindergarten. That's why I say that.
Not now. They got Javi Baez for crying. Oh wait, he's not playing yet. Never mind. Sitting at home. For his $300 million or $280 million.
Have you seen Baez jerseys?
No.
No.
Baez any Tigers. Frankly, I don't see them out there anyways, just yet.
No.
So
you think we'll see a lot of those?
Well, I think if they got started and he got out there hot, I think people in this market, in the Detroit sports market, which includes Lansing, love stars. We love stars, right?
Yep.
If Javi Baez is a star, they'll buy his jerseys. They'll Absolutely, without a doubt. Now, if he hits 220 and he's making errors and he's no. But if he's a star, we love stars.
You remember when Harvey Keene?
Nope,
you
before
don't
my
remember
time.
that name? Yeah.
Yep.
And won the American League batting championship, 1959 at 353.
Traded
fantastic.
for
Rocky Calvino,
and it was hamburger for steak.
Exactly.
Which I never understood. wasn't sure who the hamburger was, who the steak was. I never.
Frank Lane, the general manager of the Indians, that's his comment.
Yeah.
And he said that he was getting steak.
Keene was steak.
Yeah.
And Rocky was hamburger.
Okay. Yeah. So, but when you think about shortstops, and you don't have many shortstops who hit that way,
right?
Became an outfielder,
right?
Right.
Especially not in that era,
right? And then you had Alan Trammell, right? Who's Hall of Famer now. How good would Javi Baez have to be for most Detroit baseball fans? When you mention Detroit shortstop, they think of him instead of Tram or Harvey Keene or Billy Rogel or anybody else.
I don't think it's as good. It's for how long?
How long?
If he's great for 2 years, no, because look at Prince Fielder. He was great for 2 years. Is he in our psyche now? No. But if he's good or really good for 6-8 years and they win a championship, now you're talking in that discussion with Trammell. It's about longevity and it's about winning. That's what we like here, I think, in the Detroit in the Tigers market.
All right. Is your guess that they will play a 162-game season?
No. No. I think that's my guess is going to be at least that week 154, that next mark down. But I just don't see they're so far apart. And Major League Baseball has already said if they don't have a agreement by the end of the month, which is now 9 days away, it'll be delayed. So that means, and again, like to your point, Jack, they don't want to start doubleheaders. That works against what they want to do.
Right. April baseball is pretty crappy.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
What if they just started May 1st?
Well, if you want a shorter season, let's talk about that. Why work into it this backwards way, right?
Yeah.
If you want a shorter season, figure that out. If I take less money, I can. But it's you said earlier, it's a battle for power and who's right. It's not about getting a solution that works for everybody.
All right. Jim, we talked about the list. Did you get any feedback to the discussion or the ideas we had about who should be the top 10? We were surprised about Pedro Martinez.
Yeah, no, I heard more than one comment about that. He was too high.
Yeah.
I think we got a lot of people that I talked to that said they agree that top 3 or 4 or 5 would be interchangeable. But I did hear Barry Bonds needed to be up higher.
Yeah.
That's one thing I heard a couple times.
And that's a separate debate of whether he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Right. See, it goes along with that, is that it's even a bigger travesty to have one of the winningest pitchers of all time, the greatest home run hitter of all time, and throw Pete Rose in as the greatest hitter as far as average and number of hits, all not in the Hall of Fame, harms the whole idea. So, and I don't disagree with that. And when you look at it that way, it doesn't make much sense.
Right.
But I did hear, and I did get some support too. That when I talked about the most dominating pitcher of my generation being Randy Johnson, I got some support on that.
Yeah. Well, your generation is not my generation.
You remember? Wasn't it Cy Young that was really Walter Johnson, the freight train? Right? Wasn't it?
Rob, now do you see why Stark never gets an invitation?
I know. I get
to come out
nothing.
with us?
I get nothing, Rob.
I see that? Just abuse.
I get nothing.
I don't consider Sandy Koufax and Bob Gibson to be ancient.
No, and they'd be in the discussion for sure.
Yeah.
And I remember them only more about reputation than I do.
Right.
I watched Randy when he couldn't find the plate.
Right.
When he was with the Expos.
Koufax was like that early in his career.
Lefties,
it was wild.
Yeah. Well, look at Nolan Ryan, for crying out loud.
I was just going to say, you guys haven't even mentioned Nolan Ryan. Where's he at?
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Where was he?
Well, he was the same. He was kind of in between those two eras. He was the end of Koufax and Gibson and the beginning of but he never won. He never won. That was the difference.
Yeah.
He never won a championship. Yeah.
But
and
the no-hitters, the strikeouts,
he was
the
fun to watch.
longevity. I mean, he had a lot going for him.
Look, Rob, his record was not that much over 500 either. So he was not a winning pitcher. He was a great pitcher. He was more of an attraction, though, than a winning pitcher.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yes. I don't remember Nolan Ryan ever carrying a team to a championship.
No, he never did. But he was fun to watch.
He did get a World Series ring, though.
Late?
Early.
Oh, with the Mets in 69.
69 Mets.
He wasn't even a regular, though, was he? I think he was a mop-up guy.
Yeah, he was a fringe guy.
Yeah.
Maybe fourth starter. They had Seaver and Kuzman and Gary Gentry.
He danced through. I think his Houston teams are pretty good. The Rangers, but they were pretty good. We like greatness.
Yeah.
And Jack Morris, had he not won the World Championships, he would not be in the Hall of Fame. I fervently believe. And I think that's what's going to really help make the case for Matthew Stafford, is he won a championship. People love that. As much as they like individual honors, they like championships.
I wonder if you were a hitter and you had to go up to the plate and avoid being struck out to save your life. If he struck you out,
okay.
And if you could get a bat on the ball, whether you would rather face Sandy Koufax, Bob Gibson, Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson.
See, to me, Nolan Ryan would be the worst because he was so unpredictable. He could be kind of wild.
Yeah.
Gibson, you knew was great, but he was so mean. You couldn't get inside on him at all.
Yeah.
And I think Koufax, I don't remember, but he was a precision guy, wasn't he?
He was a big time power pitcher.
But he moved the ball around too, right? I
mean,
See,
the best curveball ever, because it would start at the outside of the batter's box and the thing would break 2 feet.
See, Ryan was great because of his power. He had a good curveball, but it wasn't Sandy Koufax curveball. So I think in one at bat, I think I'd at least want to face Ryan.
Yeah.
But Randy Johnson could be so overwhelming because he was so 6'10", and I remember the bat in the All-Star game with John Kruk, where Kruk goes up there, and that's, even though it was kind of a funny thing that's what he was like, though. You couldn't dig in against him. So I think for each one, but if I had to pick one guy I'd want to try to bat against of those four, maybe Gibson. Out of those four, if I had to pick one,
because remember when Norm Cash went up to the plate and
but you knew he was going to be around the plate. He wasn't going to hit you. He wasn't wild. And he didn't have, I think, the curveball that the Koufax, unless I'm wrong about that. But to me, he was more, he would get you down low away. But picking any one of those four would be the hardest thing. I wouldn't want to, if my life depended on it, Jack, send me roses, because I ain't making it.
Well, I think your chances might be better to be struck out by all four of them.
I think ask someone that actually could play baseball, that's a great question.
Yeah.
If you ask a good hitter, a Trammell or something, who of those four, if you had to get the bat in the ball, would you pick? That's
Next
a great
time
question.
you talk to Tram,
you know what?
we're going to get Tram on the show because we do that about once a year.
Okay, well, let me know. I mean, that would be the question: is if you had to get the bat in the ball, or which of those four would you think would be the best chance of doing it?
Yeah,
great question.
All right, Jim, thanks for coming in as always. I got something for you here.
Are we going to have a baseball agreement by the next time we talk? I don't think so.
Are we going to talk in March, or when are you talking about?
A week from now, I'm thinking, unless I get fired again. He fires me all the time, Rob. Fires me on Thursday, hires me back on Monday.
Jim Stark, Michigan Sports Legacy Conservancy.
Thank you.
Tease it. We got it coming up.
Friday, March 4th, we're going to have a special presentation here in the studio, live in person, with Jack Ebling, a drive with Jack, and we're going to present one of our grants to a local high school.
That's fantastic.
More details to follow.
Yes.
Friday, March 1st.
We're going to promote that
March
too.
4th.
March 4th.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Great.
We'll be right back. Trent Bally is in the house from Impact, and we're going to talk about Michigan State basketball and much, much more coming up on The Drive with Jack.
At Culver's, we believe there's a right way to prepare a North Atlantic cod fillet sandwich, the traditional way. By traditional, we mean the way it's done all across the Midwest. We start with the finest, hand-cut cod fillets, batter each by hand, and cook crispy golden to order. No shortcuts, just hot and flaky, hand-battered goodness. So good.
It's a tradition, all right. Culver's North Atlantic cod fillet dinner or sandwich. Welcome to Delicious.
If your next event or holiday party has you feeling stressed and overwhelmed, don't be. Voted Lansing's best new restaurant by Top of the Town, One North Kitchen and Bar has catering for every occasion from an award-winning chef. Book your next event by calling 517-901-5001. One North is the perfect place to get with family and friends for this bowl season. Also voted Lansing's best sports bar, They have over 40 TVs, feature scratch cooking, amazing craft cocktails, and the largest draft beer selection in West Lansing. That's One North Kitchen and Bar, where friends and family gather to make good times great.
As families and communities across Michigan gear up for an historic back-to-school season, Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join their dedicated team of school bus drivers. They offer competitive wages and paid training, quality benefits, flexible schedules, and most of all, endless opportunities to make a difference. Apply today at deanjobs.com to join this critical effort to help students return to learn this fall. deanjobs.com.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Taylor. President Biden says it's clear Russia has begun its invasion of Ukraine.
Putin authorized Russian forces to deploy into these regions. Today, he asserted that these regions are actually extend deeper than the two areas he recognized.
Speaking from the White House, President Biden said Vladimir Putin bizarrely said parts of Ukraine belong to Russia yesterday.
Who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries on territory that belong to his neighbors?
Biden imposed harsh new sanctions on Russia, cutting off the country from Western finances and more. Wall Street is tanking over the Russia-Ukraine crisis. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped over 700 points at one time in afternoon trading. Trading is expected to remain volatile as U.S. and European allies weigh more sanctions against Russia. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ were also lower. Lisa Taylor, NBC News Radio.
Jack Ebling here with Matt Sloan at Graph of Okemos. Matt, people buying cars different ways now with inventory changes.
They certainly are, Jack. It's a wild time, but we're still selling them. You might not see them on the lot, but they're still coming in every day, and we're still delivering them. So what we're finding is a lot of people, they come in, and they actually place an order for the vehicle instead of finding one on the lot that they want. Then that comes in within 7-8 weeks, and they take delivery.
We'll still want that great Graph service. They're making friends.
When it's your moment, that once-in-a-lifetime moment, you don't just want jewelry. You can get that anywhere. You want a memory that will go down in history, your moment. We're Medawar, crafted with exquisite style, quality, and love, so your present will be stunning every time you look at it, every time someone notices it, and they will notice. We've devoted our lives to this art, and we're proud to share it with you. The gift you want to give is here.
Medawar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, Portage, and Brighton.
There is definitely an art to handcrafting a rich, creamy Culver's concrete mixer. Start by scooping our so incredibly fresh vanilla or chocolate frozen custard. Then add whatever mix-ins you crave. Cookie dough, salted caramel, Butterfinger. Blend till you get the perfect balance of goodies from top to bottom. Indulge in a thing of beauty.
Come to Culver's and let us create a concrete mixer masterpiece just for you-know-who. Welcome to Delicious.
Major League Baseball and the Players Association are still making little progress in their effort to end the league's lockout. Reports say the sides met Monday for nearly 5 hours and didn't come to terms on a new collective bargaining agreement. The lockout has already affected spring training, which was delayed until at least March 5th. The sides are still working to avoid moving opening day, which is scheduled for March 31st. There remain some big economic issues, such as competitive balance tax, minimum salaries, and revenue sharing that have impeded negotiations. Michigan men's basketball coach Juwan Howard is being suspended for the rest of the regular season. He received the suspension after hitting a Wisconsin assistant coach in the face following Michigan's loss Sunday to the Badgers. NHL last night, the Bruins beat Colorado 5-1. Carolina in overtime won at Philadelphia 4-3. Vancouver topped Seattle 5-2. And Calgary topped Winnipeg 3-1. That's sports. I'm Seth Everett. NBC News Radio.
You're listening to The Drive with Jack Ebling.
Sorry if you're offended by that.
SpotlightMediaStudios.com.
Welcome back. It is The Drive with Jack, Spotlight Radio Network. Jack Ebling here with my producer, Rob Bennett, and in studio, sitting across from us at 105 West Allegan, Trent Bally. He is a Grand Rapids bred Lions diehard and an outstanding job as a talk show host and all coverage of Michigan State basketball for Impact 88.9. Trent, before we get to the Spartans, I'm sure you were watching Matthew Stafford and pulling for him and hoping that it all worked out. For a lot of Lions fans, it was bittersweet. But think about it from a journalist standpoint. If you ran into Matt Stafford and you had a chance to ask him one question, what would it be?
What's the best bar in Detroit? Something like that. I don't know. Listen, I completely respect all the way that went down and everything. I don't think I wouldn't try to pry into that too much because the proof's in the pudding. We don't have to ask Matthew Stafford any questions about how the Lions organization and all that because it happened in 1 year, which could not have worked out worse for the Lions, by the way.
Loves Detroit, the city. But I would like to ask him a question after he had been administered truth serum. And the question would be, do you wish you'd been drafted by a franchise other than the Lions, or was your overall experience so positive in Detroit that it outweighed all the losses?
I'd be willing to bet it would be the latter because, hindsight's 20/20. We always have that kind of perspective.
Right.
And I do think that, I think he believes that all things happen for a reason, and he appreciated his time in Detroit, as you alluded to, a great time in the city. And the city loved him. The fans loved him for the most part. Obviously, there's never going to be – we don't deal in absolutes here. There's never going to be, a perfect piece with the fan base. But that's an interesting thing you bring up because you talk about the Aaron Rodgers situation and how, getting drafted by a stable organization, getting to sit for a few years, and then really rolling into what he's rolled into. And now they've got the same playoff win percentage, essentially. And Stafford went from 0-3 in Detroit to 4-0 in L.A., and now – they're looking at Aaron Rodgers is right around 500 in his playoff career as well. So that's interesting, Jack, because organization fit matters. It's very underrated. It doesn't get talked about enough. We hear it a lot because we are in this market that likes to discuss the Lions and what's going on there. But it really can't be overstated nationally.
You've seen so many of Stafford's games at Ford Field. In your mind, is he a Hall of Famer?
I think so. I think he has the numbers to do it. And I know that we play in a different league nowadays where – all the passing stats are inflated and that kind of thing. But he does have the statistics to do it, and now he has won that Super Bowl, and he's also not done. I think he's going to play another 4 or 5 years at a pretty high level, top 15 to 10 quarterback. I think he's a top 5 candidate right now, given the run he just went on. But he's going to play a few more years at this level. Mm-hmm. The numbers are only going up. And the one argument that I really can't stand is the Pro Bowls and the All Pros. You played in an NFC where Drew Brees was in his prime. Aaron Rodgers was in his prime. Ask Phillip Rivers if he'd trade his 8 Pro Bowls for a ring.
Tom Brady when he came into the NFC the last couple of years.
Right.
We're going to resume this conversation with a guy named Rico Beard, who thinks that Matt Stafford is dog meat.
Yeah, and I'm sure it doesn't help the fact that Matthew Stafford just beat Rico's 49ers and took him out.
Yes. I had a question, and I just saw him squirm. Oh, he put a lot of pressure on the seat where he was sitting. I said, as much as you love the 49ers, do you wish that Stafford had been traded for Jimmy Garoppolo instead of Jared Goff?
Rico will never admit that.
Oh, he was so uncomfortable.
He would never.
Okay, he was sitting on cactus.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Lions in the draft now.
Yes.
Number 2 pick.
Do
you want him to get Aiden Hutchinson?
I go so back and forth on it, Jack. I am such a prisoner of the moment sometimes. I remember after that Ohio State game, Hutchinson played the game of his life.
He did. Fantastic.
And at that moment, I went on my little Detroit podcast and I went on my Sunday morning talk show, and I said, that's the guy. That has to be the guy. Whether you have the 1st or 2nd pick, we didn't know yet.
Right.
But you knew you'd probably be 1 or 2 or 3. He'll be on the board.
Yep.
Is the idea. And then against Georgia, not to be that guy, but the Georgia game, non-factor against NFL talent on the other side. And you could say, oh, well, Trent, the Ohio State Buckeyes have some NFL talent. Yeah, I understand that. But I think that sometimes there's a factor of getting up and playing the game of your life as a senior, as a leader, as a Heisman candidate against your biggest rival in your year of destiny, essentially. Because you know what, Jack, he also didn't do anything against Michigan State. And I understand that it's a run-heavy team, but he didn't really stir up that edge that well against Kenneth Walker.
He had the sack fumble that was ruled a non-fumble that Michigan fans say is still a fumble, so they won the game actually 40-37 because.
Well, they never lose.
Yeah, actually they got a field goal out of that, so it would have been 37-all. But all right, let's switch gears and talk about this Michigan State basketball team in Iowa City tonight. And we just saw Tyson Walker go off for 24 points in the second half against Illinois. 26 for the game. Do you think he'll score half that many tonight? Will he score 13 or more?
I'm going to say yes. And the reason why I'm going to say yes is because I think it was a confidence thing to see it happen. That was one thing that Tom Izzo was adamant about after the game. He said, look, I've seen Tyson do this. You guys just haven't seen him do it in a game because it hasn't happened. And that's the player he was at Northeastern.
Right.
That's the player that I think a lot of us expected him to be here. And it hasn't really taken form. But, Jack, it only takes one sometimes. It's just like when you're in an 0-2 count. It takes one good pitch, one good swing to crank it out of the park. And Tyson Walker can absolutely, I think he feels a little more comfortable on in that bench role now. I think he feels a little bit of that pressure alleviated. So we'll see, but I definitely think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with off the bench going forward.
He was playing with so much joy.
Yeah.
Saturday, and there had been games before that where he almost looked afraid. There was apprehension in what he did, but I asked a question after the game and the post game, and I wanted him to answer it a certain way, and he wouldn't do it. I said, last seconds of a game, who do you want to take the shot? And the correct answer is, I want the ball.
And he did against Illinois.
Yeah. But he said, well, just whoever's open, whoever's hot.
Yeah.
He
gave the team answer.
Yeah. Scott Skiles, and I'm not saying Tyson Walker is Scott Skiles.
Right.
If someone else tried to take the last shot, he would have gone over and kicked him right in the nuts. I mean, it would have been.
Yes.
There
are certain players that just go get the ball, Jack.
Yeah.
And in college, there's less of those guys, I understand, than, say, the pros. But I agree with you in that Tyson Walker could be that guy. And who knows, maybe that's the key to end as we look into this last week of February and into March, that the Spartans really need to kind of get out of this slump.
So I'm going to say he scores 12 points tonight.
12?
Yeah, just under.
You're a betting man.
Well, time to time. Don't bet on teams I cover, though. But in terms of Max Christie, what has to happen to get him to push through physically and psychologically? I think he has run into the wall.
I just think that he needs a little bit more from his teammates. And I know that probably sounds completely backwards given the fact that he is the freshman and, that should be expected. But he is the one who he's one of your only shot makers. And Tom will come in after every game and say, look, my two best shooters, that being Gabe and Max, just aren't hitting shots. They're in a slump. And I think it's that simple? No, but I think that it might be 90% that simple. I don't know. Max just needs to see the ball go in a little bit more. And look, I know I've come on here and said that time and time again, but he is a freshman,
right.
and momentum is something, and ebbs and flows are something.
Two quick questions for you. Score prediction tonight.
I like the Spartans in a high-scoring one because you look at the way Iowa likes to play. It's a lot of run and gun, and I would look at Marcus Bingham to have a very good game tonight because of Iowa's lack of size. I'm going to say Spartans 76, Iowa 71.
You have 30 seconds to describe what happened with Juwan Howard and the ramifications.
I don't blame Greg Gard, and it's not bias. It's just, look, he was trying to explain. I don't know. I still have yet to understand why, if it's okay for Greg Gard, or if it's okay for Juwan Howard to be pressing down 15 with 15 seconds left, then why isn't it okay for Greg Gard to call a timeout to try to get his guys set and break the press?
Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
We're going to watch the game together tonight.
Yes, we are.
With Rob and Dale Beard, and we're going to have a lot of fun. All right. And not Jim Stark. I want to thank Scott Docterman joining us from The Athletic, covering the Iowa Hawkeyes. And there'll be a wild night there, remembering Luca Garza, have him there, and, of course, the great Roy Marble, the late, great Roy Marble. Larry Lage, just back from Beijing in his first radio interview, talking about coverage of the Winter Olympics and what he makes of the whole handshake thing. Dale Beard, about to be honored by Ferris State, member of the Lansing Everett State Championship team in 1977, and he is the coach of Lansing Sexton, improving team. Watch Sexton in the tournament. Jim Stark, Michigan Sports Legacy Conservancy. Always appreciate him being with us. And Trent Bally from Impact 88.9. We will be back tomorrow. Have a great night, everyone. Enjoy the game.